Welcome to the Leadership Adventure. Today I have with me Jacqueline Widdis, who's a product manager at Microsoft in the visual studio space. Welcome, Jacqueline. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Kasia. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited to join you today.
Jacqueline, I'd love to first hear what your observations are about leadership as a product manager. What do you consider to be the most important to be able to lead in this space?
Yeah, well, we'll get into that. I had a career gap before I got back into tech. So after a really long one. So there was a lot of learning for me on leadership. What does it look like? I was intimidated by professional emails when I first started because people made them so thoughtful and put links. And I was used to very casual conversations like, hey, how are you? And so it really took a lot to, I'm still very much learning. I think the number one thing is that growth mindset of, I can think I know leadership today, but ask me in 5 years and it's going to be defined completely different. So I've kind of latched on to what does Microsoft call a leadership principle. And they are very much about creating clarity and generating energy on your team and then delivering successfully. So if I'm ever having those moments of doubt, I was just like, what can I do today to create clarity? And I've learned to ask more questions. I think leadership is very much about what you can discover from others as opposed to forcing anybody to do anything. I've also learned that if I'm feeling stuck, it's a great idea just to give back to someone else in some way. I know if you're talking to me, we'll eventually get into mentorship and all those things because they're such a passion point. But I think that that's leadership, is realizing that you always have value to add to someone's life and they always have value to add back. So if you're not getting anywhere with a person or an idea or yourself, then start asking questions. What's limiting me? Am I creating or communicating clear with this other person? Where are our differences and where are our similarities? We're usually more similar than we are different as humans. And if we can realign as a product manager, what is the problem we're actually trying to solve today, right now? And sometimes I just have to return back to that problem statement. Everybody can come to the table with so many different ideas on how to solve that problem. And the thing is, we all think our ideas are maybe the most valuable in the room or the right solution, and realizing that we have to accept that we all have that value and we're all trying to serve our customers. So if we're all on the same team, it's not about who wins the day. It's about how do we come together and value each other's opinions and diversity and really bring all of that to the table so that together we're building powerful solutions. So I think leadership is very much about collaboration more than going in and saying my way is the right way. The more I step back and get out of any win-lose philosophy, the further we all get as a team. And I used to think that questions about how I did something were almost like an attack. And because I had my own insecurities, like, what if my idea isn't the right thing? But learning that there often isn't a right or wrong when it comes to customer solutions. Half the people are going to love what you do. The other half are going to hate it. So you have to be comfortable with where you got, why you got it, the data that you use to arrive, to get to that decision, and then move forth with that, understanding how to address criticism, but know that your team delivered something well.
I love it. And I really wanted to ask you about your point about generating energy, because I think that this is something that is often overlooked in leadership. How do you generate energy in your team?
It's one of the hardest ones and most challenging for me also. And I think it comes back to that collaboration and where I could feel, oh, my idea was shut down, or I didn't communicate it well enough, or did they even hear me? And I think that the generating energy first starts with generating energy in ourselves. How do you regroup and come back to a meeting that didn't go so well? How do you come back after your idea didn't make it into the final product? And you're just, sometimes I'm like, oh, but what didn't ship is amazing. And the energy has to come first with me. Is, I'm going to go into meetings, or I should say when I go into meetings, with more optimism than holding on to any past scenarios with the person I'm meeting with, then naturally you can come in with more enthusiasm. I stopped being afraid of presenting my ideas or taking up space at the table. I think as women in tech particularly, we live in a world where the table can feel small because we make it that way, and learning how to expand and be like, no, I deserve to be here. I should be heard, and it's important what I have to say. So often it takes someone going first on anything, whether it's speaking up first, whether it's addressing a problem first. So there can be just the, hey, can we just like drop the elephant from the room, address it? And usually when someone goes first, other people start chiming in as well. It's like somebody needs to break that ice. And often I can generate energy by being more vulnerable and saying, I need help here. I'm stuck. I have writer's block. I asked the AI and it didn't give me any great ideas, whatever that may be. But as soon as you posture yourself as a learner instead of a know-it-all, then it can help people feel more alive because now you value their input and you need them in some way.
That's very powerful, isn't it? Because so often judgment can creep up and get in the way of these things. So I love what you're sharing. And you mentioned you had a career gap. Tell us a little bit more about that and how that played out for you.
Sure. I was in tech, and I will date myself happily, in 1998. So the first thing I did was year 2000 remediation, programming in COBOL. And that was as a new graduate. And I remembered a professor telling me, if you get out of tech for 18 months, you're obsolete and you'll never get back in. And so I believed it. I was young enough to completely take that to heart. And then I met a military guy, and he was in the Navy, and we ended up moving around. The first time we moved, I was able to land a role really easily, but then we moved to a more remote location. Not remote in there were no things, but tech was not big there. So I ended up working as an administrator for my church. So it's like I went from Fortune 500 to small office helping make flyers. And that was my first underemployed moment. And as we added children to the family and more moves, I made the choice to offer a more stable life for my kids and family than continue trying to press for work that wasn't that it wasn't meaningful. It's just, it really can hit the soul. And you're like, I used to program, and now I'm doing these things. And so when he retired, he started challenging me. What are you passionate about? What do you want to do? I've dragged you all over the place long enough. What's your next thing? So I went on that quest of, well, what am I passionate about? And it brought me, I became a cake decorator, and then I became a personal trainer, and I joked that one led to the other. So like, I was like, oh wait, that frosting's really good. I need to run it off. So I did that for several years, which got into network marketing for a while because that was the thing to do if you're an at-home parent. But that taught me how to go for no, how to be a little more confident in my skin, get on video and exercise in front of people. I think they're still out there in the world. But then I started looking at just job posts, what's out there. And when I looked at on a whim, I said, well, what's tech doing these days? And I saw a lot of the skills that I had were not only still valuable, and I'm not talking about the hard tech skills, but the soft skills that I learned. But I had learned so many more in that career gap than I did. Like life is a fantastic teacher. So I had a lot of life at that point. And I went back to community college and said, I'm just going to do a skills refresh. And very quickly in that process did I learn that I still had it just fine. I was top of the class, built relationships with professors, because that's what I do also, community builder. And I had some opportunities start to open up then, but then my husband got recruited to the Pacific Northwest and we moved again. So it was just kind of the military spouse story of, oh, I'm getting a thing going and we move. But that's actually where the doors flew open, and I got into more in-person networking and happened to be at I debated with myself for a long time. Did I just get lucky? I used to wonder that, but it was really not a moment where preparation met opportunity. I had attained some certifications and whatnot along the way. So I was at a military-friendly networking event, and somebody stood up and said, if you know any military spouses or happen to be one, come talk to me when we're done, and because I have an opportunity. And I think I almost tripped over myself getting to him at the end of the presentation that happened. Like, I'm a military spouse. What have you got? And he looked at me. He's like, you don't happen to have any networking certifications, do you? I said, yes, I do. I have Network Plus. And it turned out Microsoft was running a pilot program for military spouses. And I got accepted in the program, hired out of the program, and been there 6 years now. So,
wow. Okay. That's quite the journey. And so you're in Seattle
yes.
then as this happens.
Yes.
And so how important, you mentioned networking, and in this case, the opportunity to attend an event. And I know that this is something that now is important to you.
Yes.
And so what are your thoughts about the best ways to network now at this current time that we're in?
Yeah, one of the important parts about that career gap story is it took me 3 years. And some of that was because I was in a classroom, and classes just take time. What I didn't realize was that value of networking. And some of that was I had a lot of self-confidence to deal with and issues. I used to use the word just a lot. I'm just a stay-at-home mom, or I'm just new in tech, or my resume just has a few bullets. And that word just, I'll end up saying it before the end of this podcast, because as soon as I say that, I don't say it as much anymore, then I start saying it. But the word just is so limiting in how we define ourselves. I didn't say I was an amazing community builder. I knew how to bridge the gap between just humans who are, we all want to connect with each other. And I just do that well. And I denied a lot of my superpowers because of that limiting word.
Is it that you didn't know you had these strengths, or you just didn't want to brag? What was it that stopped you?
I think I didn't identify them. I have a lot of trauma in my background too. So I also needed to deal with a lot of that and realize my own brokenness, and how my therapist loves to say, oh, you see danger where there isn't any. So I think some of it was I saw danger everywhere. I saw danger in walking into the classroom the very first time. I'm not going to be good enough. I'm not going to be all those things. So I both knew I had them because I'd seen the results since, I was a stay-at-home mom, and we had a pool in Las Vegas. And I said, it'd be great is just inviting people over and see who wants to show up. So I started putting a weekly invitation on Facebook, and people showed up. And by the time we ended up moving away, I started noticing on social media how many people that just came to a pool party were now connected and interacting with each other. And I still do that. And I do it through mentorship now. So a lot of those beliefs it's like I had both at the same time, the limiting belief and I knew I had strength. I just often believed the limiting ones more than the strength ones, especially in a job search with the career gap. I had to believe that I belonged at the table. I had to believe that those skills were still valuable or wanted. And you get rejection after rejection after rejection, and it can affirm the negative as opposed to the positive. And now I just don't want people to have to go on a 3-year journey to be successful. And
so
yeah,
during that 3 years, were you applying for roles and interviewing at that time?
I was. There were like speed networking events that the school had. And since I was at a community college, I was one of the few that actually had a degree as opposed to going for an associate's at the time. So even the fascinating thing is, even with this career gap, when I'd go to those events, they'd look at my resume and be like, you're overqualified for this. And I'm like, so I'm trying to get back in. And even it was this odd dichotomy of I would apply and get rejected. And I was applying. That's another thing I would say is I waited. Well, gosh, we hear it with women all the time. We wait till we think we meet 100% of the qualifications. And so I would have to find that job that I felt like I met that 100%, and then I would apply.
Yeah.
And I always say that I applied with my heart. I'm like, I know this is the one for me. Now, I had no idea how to really do a great resume. I had people review it at the college, but I didn't feel like I had impact. So I didn't talk about impact. And, we say now, even put numbers on, make sure you got numbers on your resume, things like that. So I did so many crazy things that I can laugh about now when I was applying. I remember doing a cover letter. I was like, these other cover letters don't work. Let me talk about why I became a runner and how that tenacity coming to your team will be an amazing thing. That will get somebody to at least stop and read it. I don't know if they read it or not, but I felt good about the story. Still feel good about the story. It may not be the best job strategy.
Well, it depends on, I guess, if they're a runner too, right?
Yes, or just took the time to read it.
I love the experimenting piece here, because sometimes that's necessary to see what works. And,
yes.
I think that it's what you're raising, the idea of being overqualified. That's something that I see regularly, because I work with executive clients. And so sometimes if they're ready to make a change, it can be really difficult to find the next role. And sometimes they are overqualified. One of my clients recently went from being a CEO to a country manager role.
Wow.
And so these kinds of shifts at a later age sometimes as well can be very challenging. And, I think that in that sense, the network that you have is the thing that is absolutely going to help the most, rather than applying for random, opportunities.
Especially right now, like the job market is really, I won't say just tough, it's heartbreaking at times. So when you talk about people stepping back into, we're seeing director levels applying for senior roles, or entry level at some cases, because they just need something. And I hear that story all the time in mentorship. And then it's frustrating for those who are at that level to try and compete with directors. So it's interesting scenarios happening right now.
It's tough. And, one of like when you say heartbreaking, one of the women that reached out to me, she was actually 64, just shy of her 65th birthday, a few days away, literally. And she got laid off from a bank, and she was a data analyst. And so when she told me this, it was something I just wasn't expecting at all. I really felt that in the finance sector, tech roles are more secure, and had those ideas. And it really was heartbreaking to hear her story and hear that this happened. And now she was trying to find a new role to make it to retirement. And I'm curious, what your thoughts are in terms of the best ways to network at that stage of life, or in the current business environment that we're in. How would you approach it from your perspective now, learning what you have learned going through your experience?
I'm a huge advocate for LinkedIn. Some of that is because I'm a little bit of a homebody, and for a while there were no in-person networking events. I'm starting to challenge my own assumptions on that one and say, okay, let me go find some in-person ones. All I have to do is look at Eventbrite or Meetup, and I can go do those things. But LinkedIn you could do from anywhere. And I see a lot of, I hate to use right or wrong, because most of them are just lessons that people haven't learned yet, including myself. And I have learned a lot of those lessons through trial and error myself. But there's just a way to approach LinkedIn to where it's not about what can I get from this platform. It becomes about the other person. And I say lead with curiosity. Well, who are they? Are they a thought leader? How did they become a thought leader? What sorts of things are they posting on? And when it comes to limiting beliefs, I see that so much. People are afraid. I just did a poll last week on what stops somebody from posting on LinkedIn. And the things that surfaced were, I don't feel like I can add value to the conversation, don't know what to post, and fear. And all of those things can be addressed. So I often say, if you're afraid to do anything, find people, search them up, and start interacting on their posts. Now, first time I ever hit enter on LinkedIn, I am not kidding you. I paced the house for about 10 minutes after, thinking my world could fall apart. I don't even know if anybody saw that post, maybe 3 people. So I'm still here. I did not die by posting enter. And then the thing is, we remember our worst moments, but other people don't. So it's like, I can repost content that I posted a year ago and know that it will be successful because it was successful a year ago. Nobody else will remember that. So I kind of tell people, put yourself out there a little bit. And if you're really afraid of putting a post, just interact with people and ask questions. And I used to say like or comment on posts, and I'm like, now it's just comment. Liking does nothing. I see 50 people like something. Okay, great. I don't go and check who that was. But if you can get on there and ask thoughtful questions, now your name starts getting known. You can hit the little bell on their profile if you always want to see their post. So you can target companies, you can target people, you can target recruiters, you can target who you want to follow. And I always say to add people who do what you do, so you have your peers, people who hire what you do. So if you can find hiring managers, that's golden. Try and reach out. Not everybody's going to respond. So what? You can always withdraw that request and then reach out again in 2 weeks. And then you want to find the recruiters who are recruiting for those roles. And I've now added, you want thought leaders. Who are the people that have written the books? Who are the people with massive followings? When you start interacting with those people, the beauty of LinkedIn is the lack of anonymity that other platforms have. Their network sees your comment. My network sees my comment. Now you're able to meet people. And if somebody starts interacting with you or asking questions saying, hey, that's a great point, send them a connection request. Hey, thanks for chiming in on my comment. I'd love to connect with you. It's the most organic, easy thing to do because you've already had an interaction with that person. It's not cold. It's not cringy. You don't have to feel like you're bothering anybody. And you know they're active on the platform, which is very important. A lot of people show up on LinkedIn when they need a job or wrote a blog post and never show up outside of it. Find the people who are active, and then you have active people. You don't have to worry, are they there or not? And it's just easy. It becomes fun because now you're adding value. You're connecting with people who write the books. I got so giddy once just because a really huge podcaster that I followed was just, he just said, great point. And I almost fell through my chair. I was just like, oh my gosh, he answered. And I have somebody who they'll target the big names. And like, my goal is just for them to acknowledge I'm here. So they'll go after NFL football players and things like that. It's all right there. Define what your goal is and then interact your way to it. You don't have to even send an inbox message for months or years. But when you do, they recognize your name. And then it becomes, oh, I'm helping a friend. And we help our friends. We want to help our friends. When a friend comes to me, I'm like, oh, sure, I'll put in a referral for you. Why not? You've been there for a year commenting on my stuff. And I introduce people to other people and built I pop in a weekly mentorship call that I do. That's just open invitation. Anybody can join, same time, same link, same all the things. And now people have come in to be mentors with me to the point where I'm like, is it still my thing? No, not really. I've told them, I was like, look, I view this as our thing now. But it's grown through connections, stumbling across people randomly. And then they tend to want to join your efforts. It's kind of how we met, right? Is like, I did a post in a Facebook group and she's like, and you were like, hey, I want to talk to you.
Yeah. Well, this is how we find out about what we don't know exists and who we don't know exists, right? This is one of the things I'm always inspired by is just the not knowing what else is out there, who else is out there, because, I'm never out of surprising people or, surprising stories or amazing things going on in the world. That's one of the things that inspires me is just what is unknown.
Yes. Like I said, lead with curiosity. Right?
That's right.
Like,
yeah.
Just be curious.
That's one of the reasons I love having these conversations, because I don't know for sure what someone's going to want to talk about, what they really feel is in their, soul to share, and what gifts they want to share with the world. So we all have learned different things, have had exposure to different lives. And so there's a lot of richness in that.
Yeah. I think
And
that's another thing though, like your listeners might really enjoy thinking about is the things we do that we consider mundane or rote or part of our day is somebody else's curiosity. Um, I laughed at the best performing LinkedIn post I ever did, ever. And I write thoughtful stuff all the time. I posted a picture of a ping pong table on Microsoft's campus. And I just said, I love to go to different buildings and see what's there. Well, Microsoft responded, and I had 500,000 people views of the thing immediately. And I'm just like, a ping pong table? Really? Because that was so mundane to me. It's like I walk into our buildings and there's all sorts of quirky, weird things, but it's somebody else's fascination. And sometimes we discredit the things that come easy to us or are part of our day to day because we don't think they're as important. So even when I said earlier, people think they don't have anything to add value to the conversation. I'm like, how did you make your coffee this morning? It's going to be unique. I went through bulletproof coffee for a while. I was adding butter to coffee and I'm like, you should try it. It's actually amazing. It's like just somebody else's fascination. So you don't know where that curiosity will bring you or what you'll learn. I just started taking improv classes less than a year ago, and that's changing my perspective on things. And I went from, I don't think I could ever do that, to this is fun. I can't wait to get on stage, good or bad, whatever happens, it's learning and it's fun. So
yeah, that's great. Improv is such a great tool for really being able to learn to get comfortable with thinking on your feet.
yes.
And so I always love recommending improv because it's such a fun thing to do as well. For
Yeah,
leadership
day one,
development.
everybody's terrified. So I'm going through with a cohort. We've been together since that very first class, and still walking the journey with one another.
That's great. And so share with us the link that you have for Fridays, you said, because if anybody here who's listening is interested or is looking for a new opportunity that may be valuable for them.
Sure. It happens every Friday, 10:30 a.m. Pacific. And the link is aka/ms, and then it's, aka.ms/mentorship live, all one word. It is a link. I know it's a weird one. That's just it's a redirect that we have internally. And the people at my chain know what I'm doing. So nobody's had a problem with me using those links to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I was curious as well. You mentioned, the AI tools that you've been using for networking a little bit earlier when we chatted today. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about how you're using that. Are there ways that you think haven't been tapped into enough at this point?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on AI, so you can pause me at any time and say enough, Jacqueline. We've been challenged internally a lot to start using it more, and so I did. And at first, I was kind of, this is weird. It's scary. Why is it so good at answering questions? And then I started getting really curious about it, and I said, let me put this thing to the test. And I had heard you could do things like upload samples of your writing. I uploaded some 50 LinkedIn posts, and then I started saying, well, I care about these things and I like to insert humor, and I started doing that. And I just asked, I said, okay, generate 10 LinkedIn posts for me. And the first time it gave one-liners, and I said, and I laughed, and I even said, all right, anybody who knows me knows that I do not say anything in one line. And I said, try again. And it started getting a little more accurate. But what it really did was it started generating ideas for me. Oh, I didn't think to take that angle on mentorship. I didn't even think about that as leadership. It started just opening up possibilities. So what I do is treat it like I'll tell you a funny story in a second, but I just treat it as almost like that partner that the rubber duck that I can bounce ideas off of and have it return some value there. So what I've done is started adopting a lot more of that and really push the training of AI. And I think people miss that a lot. That step is so vital in making sure it understands what your goals are, what you value, what voice you want to have. I started building a course, and what I did is just uploaded the full PowerPoint of it, and it said, "Oh, okay, I see what you're doing." And now when I ask it for post ideas, it will sprinkle some of the flavor of that course, and it's something I made years ago. So, but the content it was on networking. It's the content's still great, and it gleaned from my own presentation things that were important that I kind of forgot about because it was buried 30 slides down. And I said, oh, so sometimes I'm like, what a great idea. And if you ask it for prompts on how to connect with people, it can give you just a little hint of confidence. If you're afraid to post for the first time, if you're afraid to reach out, it can just give you those ideas of, oh yeah, that's something I'd say. Well, that's not scary. And once you get over that first initial fear of a new thing, it stops being scary. I no longer pace the house after I hit enter on LinkedIn. There's more like, oh, I forgot to do a LinkedIn post. Let me go come up with something and spend 10 minutes working on it, and then hit enter, and I go about my day.
Yeah.
So I use it as a companion, not a answer. And I think that that's also important, is don't take your brain out of the equation. It's there for a reason. And AI is not that. It's getting better. It's getting more accurate the more I interact with it. And if you need a fun prompt, just ask it to tell you something about yourself that you don't see. And then you get a great boost on, oh yeah, I guess I am those things. But play with it, get curious, see what it can do, push back, tell it, no, that's not wrong. I don't want to hear that anymore. And I've even done things like, okay, if you're putting this link to my YouTube channel, always include this with it. And it's like, and then I'm like, what was that thing I told you to include? It'll come back and tell me. So have fun.
Like the personal assistant. I have to take you back to the rubber duck comment. What did that mean to you?
Okay.
Maybe not everybody would understand
me to the concept, and he says, oh, it was a rubber duck, and I did the same thing. What are you talking about? And the concept is that you have a rubber duck or a thing on your desk, and when you have a question to ask, have you ever had that experience where you get in a meeting, you ask the question, and then immediately you knew the answer as soon as it came out of your mouth? It's like, pick up the duck and ask the question to the duck first, and see if hearing it aloud brings that clarity that you're looking for. And then you don't have to ask it in the meeting, or you can go into the meeting saying, I think that this is what we're going for, and let other people confirm it. And then you both look like you've thought about it, and because you have, and the meeting moves on without a lot of pausing to ask those questions. So that's my rubber duck. And I can do the same thing with AI. There was once it was the new year, and I said, I'm really overwhelmed. I don't even know what I'm supposed to be working on right now. And because we have the internal tools, and it kind of scraped my inbox, and it said, well, this is what you're working on. These are your latest emails. And, you shouldn't skip the therapy appointment on Tuesday, because that's probably going to help you feel less overwhelmed. And I just laughed out loud at that. And I was like, well, there you go. It's kind of like, if I do nothing else, at least go to therapy. So, it's a good rubber duck, as I say. So.
I see. Got you. Okay. Now, I was also, because, as you're talking, I have a few different directions I could go with the questions. And I was really thinking about, for people right now who want to reach out to recruiters, but they don't know how. They don't know if they should ask for a meeting, ask questions about the role. What would you say would be the thing that would help them take that step?
Yeah, there's going to be two factors in this. Is one, are you employed right now and you just want to build a network, or are you job seeking? And that does matter a lot on the on how you reach out. For recruiters, I try and target the companies that I would consider working for, or that I'm curious about the industry that they're doing, or they seem like top voices, or whatever those look like. And first of all, I start. So this is if I have a job now, which I do. So I'll either follow them or send a connection request. Especially, it is golden if you see someone's post to say, when you reach out to them, I saw your post on da-da-da topic, and I thought when you said this, it was very insightful. You just proved you read what they posted, that you care about what they posted, and that you found insight to what they posted. This can work for anybody. But yeah, recruiters like, oh, I didn't know this about recruiting. Thanks for clarifying that for me. Would you like to connect? I would love to support your content. Let me tell you some magic words that you can put under any creator's invitation is, I would love to support your content. I promise it is like just offering us the biggest pile of candy. We're like, oh, I have somebody that will interact with my stuff. That takes the fear away completely, because you're making it about them and not you. And what I see is people blind messaging me is, hey, do you have a job that you could recommend me for? Or I'm really interested in this industry. And they send me their resume and say, what jobs do you have? First of all, I'm not a hiring manager. So now you're asking me to do the job search for you. Do not ask recruiters or anyone to find a role for you. It sends the message that you are not capable of finding information for yourself. And that's almost unexcusable in our information world. So if you are looking for a job, find the job. You know your goals. No one else knows your goals. No one else knows your entire skill set. We all know our resume is summarized in 2 pages, and we could go on for 5, 10 pages about what we've done. So there's no way, even handing it to me, that I will know the depth and breadth of what you've done. So don't do that. If you're job searching, find the link to the role, the number. It's usually in the link in the URL itself. Don't send them the LinkedIn link. Go to the career portal and do it. And then when you reach out to the recruiter, you can say, hi, I saw that this role is posted. I'm not sure if it's in your division, but I know it's in your company. I applied for it. It's great to say you applied for it already. Once again, initiative. Is there anything that I could do to move my application along? Or what I often add is, I applied for this role. I think I'm a great fit. If I'm not at this time, I would still like to connect in case you post a role that I would be qualified for. So it's not so that you can message me a new role. It is, when you're posting new roles, I would like to see it in my feed. It takes the pressure off of them feeling like they have to do anything more than accept the request. Mm-hmm. And it shows that you're interested. You've already applied for something else. And the less you ask of someone when you're first meeting them, the better. Because we're all overwhelmed probably on some area of our life. And you have no idea what that recruiter is dealing with. And right now there are often thousands of job applications for one role. So imagine if all 1,000 people reached out to that recruiter. That's a lot. That's why I'm like, be different. Be different. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest difference is interacting with their posts before you ever reach out to them. People just don't do it. And that's how I've made amazing recruiter friends, where I can text them and say, hey, I found somebody that might meet this role that you're posting for. Can I introduce you? And, it's gone all the way to, I have their number in my phone, not just on LinkedIn. And it all started because I thought their content was hilarious. And then I started getting comic back. And then when you laugh with people, now you're friends faster. So do that. And the other golden trick is not so much recruiters, but it is how to build your network. When people do the celebration post of, I just started a new role they're happy. Happy people are more open to things. They just got a new job. They're excited. They haven't realized that anybody on their team is difficult to work with yet. All of those things. So you can say, congratulations for getting that role. I'd love to follow your career journey. Happy people accept requests. Like, it's very, find happy people and then ask to be part of their networks. And again, make it about them, not you, and treat it like it's about them and not you. And then when you do have the ask, you've invested so much more in this other person. They're usually very happy to return the favor and come on, be a guest on your podcast or help you with a problem you need to solve. The mentorship call that I do, I have people that come on as guests, and a lot of it started with me just asking questions on their post or chiming in with an opinion that I have. And I met some people because I didn't realize I was commenting on somebody with 1.5 million followers. I don't think I've ever seen anybody with that following on LinkedIn before. But it was really like, I'm not sure I agree with you on this. And I had people reach out and like, oh, I never thought of that. And then they reached out to me. So interacting with other people's posts also draws people to you. And the less you have to send the connection requests, then the less pressure on you to do any other things. So it just grows. It grows quickly, it grows organically, and it grows based on the level of effort you put into that.
Yeah,
there's a long answer to a very short question.
I was just going to say that you do stand out when you network actively as well, because I do find a lot of the time people don't make the time to network until they're in that mode of desperation.
Yes.
And we touched on this earlier as well, that people are often so busy doing their day-to-day, especially if they still have a role, that they don't invest the time to network ahead of time before they need the network. And so this is something I've been actually really highlighting for a lot of my network and clients over the past few years, because I saw that need to build a stronger safety net. And that doesn't start the day that you need help, right? It has to start way, way earlier than that. And so what's your tip for people who have a role like yourself, who are busy in their day-to-day? How do they make time for networking? Do you allocate a specific time for this? Do you just fit it into your day when you can?
A little of both. And it kind of does depend on what's going on in my life. I try to set aside 15 to 30 minutes a day. It doesn't feel like a huge chunk, but it can make a very big difference because you're active. I say all the time, don't let people forget you exist. Things move too fast. If I just met you, your name's going to scroll by the first few times, but then not the fifth time. Now I'm like, oh, they're an active participant. I have some people, if they don't comment on my stuff, I'm reaching out being like, hey, you okay? Not like I'm saying, oh, you didn't comment today. I'm just like, I haven't seen you lately. Are you all right? Is everything good? And so as far as starting, just start. And you can be empowered as to how much time you want to spend. I like the 15-minute rule for myself because it's something I can do between meetings. It's something I can just start my day with before my brain's fully in all the stuff. So I kind of think of it as my morning coffee is to do that. And then if you want to start posting, there's actually a little scheduling button on the post itself. You can spend an hour and do a full week of content that's going to auto post for you. And then you'll start seeing the notifications of people responding to your post. And then that can be the trigger of, oh, let me go answer these people. And then it pulls you in instead of you having to force it to be part of your day. And so I really recommend scheduling content if you can. And
so you see content creation as a part of networking.
I think it's optional, but nothing hurts. And we're talking about someone who's trying to build a network for a long term. And again, you can build relationships with interacting. I try to say stay out of the inbox for as long as possible. That gets very overwhelming, and a lot of people lose the messages if they happen to have a strong network. So there's that. But if you're going to be looking for a job in the future, and you're an executive coach, if you're going to be looking at that level, you need to establish yourself as an expert in your field. And by posting what you're learning, by posting articles that you've seen, by posting your thoughts on a new trend, like right now, jump on the AI trend. Do you agree with it? Do you not? Do you think it's valuable for the future? Do you think it's going to take over jobs? Go put that on there. I like that stuff is gold to get engagement, or find the people who are posting about it. But if you want to be thought of as an up and coming thought leader, that you are an expert. Often we are an expert. We might not think about it, but we are an expert in our various areas. Put it out there. I always tell students, just talk about the project you're doing. Talk about what you're learning today. My son got a role because of he did 5 crazy LinkedIn posts on, I read it even in tech. I had no idea what he's talking about. He was doing such deep book level post on LinkedIn about distributed databases. A hiring manager saw it. He was in an interview loop within 2 weeks and had a high paying job at a major tech company before he graduated. So
how old is your son?
Do what?
How old is your son?
He's 23 now. So he had it they actually had to put the job on hold and wait for him to graduate because of it. They didn't realize he was just a college student when he was posting.
Yeah.
He was
So
just posting at that level of things he's passionate about. So
this is a really interesting thing that, you know, I noticed as well, is that actually some of the people who are, you know, active in the tech fields, who are very young, are posting, and they have stronger networks than many people, you know, who are older, simply because of the comfort level of interacting on these platforms,
yes.
the habits that they have. I'm impressed with the strength of their networks that they've been able to create even before they're 20. And so this is something I think that everyone just needs to be aware of, that this is a skill that is helping people to advance and stay current and find out about opportunities. And I think a lot of the time, the isolation that, you know, people start to get comfortable with isolation sometimes, especially those of us who are introverts. I'm an introvert myself. I prefer one-on-one conversations than being
Yes.
in a big event. That it's so important to just reach out and just have conversations, you know, about whatever it is, to make sure that you build your network. And also for those of you who are sort of behind on this, connecting with people like us who are super connectors, in the sense that we put an effort into this on a regular basis, people who are already well connected, like established coaches and mentors in the tech industry, are going to help speed up the process. I'm always connecting my clients and connecting them with opportunities as a node. So it's really important to just keep that in mind as well. I think that when you want to jumpstart in that area, that can add a lot of value as well. And it's something that most people don't ever think about when they start working with me.
It's interesting you bring this up, because I just last night reconnected with someone that I met 4 years ago, and I mean, we talked along the way. We had a much closer relationship, and I was just kind of like, I wonder how he's doing. And I reached out to him. We did something at the time. It was called the LinkedIn Hard Mode Challenge that somebody started, and it was really just adding hashtags to post. And then we all, in this little cohort of about 50 people, would tag somebody that was part of the challenge. And I would even encourage people who are watching this, if you want to tag me, just tag me. I don't care if I don't know you. I'll be like, who is this? And then I will probably go look at your profile and wonder who you are. And maybe I will send an instant message like, do we know each other? How did we meet? But when you tag someone, and you can even build a list of okay to tag people. You know, is it okay if I tag you in post? You can always ask that with people you've been connected with for a while. Most people love it because it's that whole, now your network sees it, now my network sees it. And oh, if you had that thing in common, like I'll probably tag you on, thanks for having me on your podcast. That was amazing. And then it invites people to see like-minded people, and you can start building that network there of people who are smitten with you. I want to know who they are because I like you. So it's just that whole, you can build the momentum, and it is slow at first. So I do want to stress that I can make it sound like it's really easy now, but we all started with no connections. And I would say, don't go add high school friends or anything like that. Look for people in your industry. Start with coworkers if you want. You don't have to. You can just look for thought leaders. Like, you know, look at your bookshelf. Who wrote the book that's sitting there? See if you can just go follow them. There's a connection limit, 30,000 right now, but there's not a follow limit. So if you reach out to somebody with 100,000 followers, they're probably full on connections, but it doesn't mean you can't hit the bell on their profile and go interact with them every day. And guess what? You can get seen and you can get known. And then sometimes they'll even bump somebody off of their network to add you. So it's not something that is impossible to do.
So, you know, just thinking of the last topic to touch on today, I'd love to hear what your current learning edge is as a leader. What are the things that you feel that you're still growing, you know, the areas that you would still like to build on in your leadership?
Well, on a like a technical side, the AI piece is really big. On a personal side, having a really long employment gap. I'm not sure if I even mentioned the time. It was, you know, close to 20 years. And when I actually sat down and at least full-time work, there was just so much in corporate world that I didn't know and still don't know. I I like to keep things very candid. That's often not appreciated when office politics are involved. And there's a lot of just that kind of reading the room and knowing when to speak and when not to speak and when to absorb it and, take ideas and mull on it for a little bit. So a lot of the leadership is also making sure that, like I talked about earlier, is go in on the same team. If you have to, give yourself pep talk beforehand, but then listening and learning how to really read a room well. It's harder in a digital space because we don't see often the shifts in expression because our screens are a lot smaller. We might not see hands. And I was just reading a book that people want to see your hands. It builds trust. So sometimes I'll angle my camera even a little bit lower where they can see how I'm sitting in a chair, things like that. So building on what does charisma mean in person and how do you sit in the world. Improv's been helping with that too, just learning about like circles of acting and how you stand and what message you're relaying. So I think leadership is to continue learning how to connect and get to where it is just I don't notice it anymore because it becomes part of who I am. And I've made a lot of progress that way, but I'm not done with that journey. So I'm really eager to meet who I'm going to be in the next year or so.
Yeah. Jacqueline, a lot of the women in tech who we hear from say that they struggle with feeling heard and, having enough influence on strategy. What's your take on that? Do you feel that you have the type of influence that you want to have in your role?
I think it's helpful that I have a lot of women on my team, my direct team. So if they're dealing with our team, they're dealing with women often, and sometimes that bubble can really make me forget how tough it can be until I'm in different places. And when I first started, I was in a room. The role I had was releasing product, so there were maybe 30 people in the room and 2 or 3 women at a time. And I closed in because I was uncomfortable and just had that, oh, here's my laptop. Let me make sure my notepad's not in too many in someone's space. Well, that's sending the message immediately that I'm like that body language was visible, even if I didn't think about it being visible. So I do see it or have experienced it. I've been discounted before for suggestions I made that eventually ended up being the thing we went with. And it's hard to deal with because there are points when I'm like, just want to shake somebody. Like, did you not hear me when I say that? And as I've been watching, I think you have to advocate for other women too, is that if that happens, then say, oh, well, like so-and-so said, maybe we should really look at that idea more and be on alert for it. And then there are the advocates that are male also, that they do that. And when they do that, it also amplifies the importance of you. So sometimes it may be asking someone to be an advocate for you. Oh, I've seen this happen. Can you use your voice to help in a time? And it doesn't take much for that shift in posture to change in a room when you have that advocate for you. It's not that it doesn't backslide and it has to be readdressed, but take up room at the table. Tell yourself that you belong there. And an example I have is in one of my favorite places on Microsoft campus is the women's bathroom. And it's because years ago I saw an idea where you just put Post-it notes and a pen in a little envelope next to the mirror. And I wrote a note that said, "You got this." And I stuck it on the mirror. And years later, the thing is covered with encouraging notes that are in more than one bathroom now. But I just pause and I read what people are saying. And one of the things that helped more than anything was an anonymous person that wrote, "You're fine. No one knows everything about the code base." And I was just like, oh. And in meetings, sometimes I tell myself, no one knows everything about the code base. So it's okay to ask the questions. It's okay to contribute ideas. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to revel in your rightness. It's I think we need to encourage one another. We need to, if it's putting Post-it notes on your own bathroom, ask somebody in your family to do it. What do I not see in myself? Put a note on the bathroom for me, and let that inform you.
You've shared some really powerful things today, you know, that I really feel that I was actually thinking which one which one is the thing to highlight. But I really think that what you shared about not letting people forget about you is so important right
Yes.
now in the current times that we're living in.